For the past month or so, I've been on the cusp of finishing something that's taken me about a year to do, and today I finally finished it. It had been nagging me for weeks now, and I'm happy to say that finally I'm free from my shackles. You see this little dude? This is the first Warhammer mini I've ever painted. We're not talking about him today. I'm only showing him because I wanted you to see the difference between the first and the second thing I've ever painted, and it's quite astounding because the second thing that I have ever painted is, of course, my Stardrake. Behold, my son. I love him so much. Before I begin, I just want you to know that I have a tendency to hold him like this, like this, like this, like this, and like this, and sometimes like this. So if the way that I handle my mini is upsetting to you, maybe you should, like, make this tab go away. If you want to listen, you can listen, but I'm just saying, yeah, I have no regard for my things. I just kind of hold him like this, like he's a little handbag. I do this all the time when I go to, like, play Warhammer with my friends. I do this, and they look at me with the horror in their faces because I'm just like, wee, look at this thing, and they're like, that's painted. What are you doing? That was before I varnished it, by the way. I'm finally so happy I can show off my boy. I'm so proud of him. If you haven't been watching any of my shorts, I've been posting, like, works in progress of his wings mostly, but I've been working on him for, like, about a year now. And honestly, my back pain shows for it. And if you're wondering, yes, the army I am building is Stormcast Eternals. I, kind of started this army on accident. My brother got a Warcry set that came with, it was like two parties fighting, and one of them was Stormcast, and he was like, hey, I'm not going to play this army, do you want it? And I said, sure, why not? Free minis, right? And then he got another set, since I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to this as my army, and he gave that Warcry set to me, so two Warcry sets are like the start of my army. And then we went to my game store, and he was like, oh yeah, you see that dragon right there? That's part of your army. Like, and I was like, hold on. You're telling me that dragons are a main part of my army? Fun fact about me, dragons are, they're not just my favorite mythological creature, okay? Like, growing up, I was a horse girl and a dragon girl at the same time. It was the worst thing ever for everyone around me, but I didn't care because look at this thing. Would you not be a dragon girl too? How to Train Your Dragon to this day is still my favorite movie franchise. Like, I will die to have a dragon. And so, for obvious reasons, I decided to go all in on this army, which is why this dude is my commander. I love him so much. He looks so cool. And this will not be the last time I said that this video. I think you could probably put a counter down, and it's gonna end up being like at least 50 by the time we're done. But yeah, it took me about a year, my back is destroyed, all that fun stuff. But this isn't actually the first mini I've ever painted. I've painted a couple before that. I'm missing 4 of them. But outside of that, I have all of the minis I've ever painted with me right here. So add 4. So 8. 8 total. That's how many minis I've ever painted. And yeah, I painted these years ago. They kind of show for it. They did not get varnished. A lot of them have paint chips. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If I took the time to take pictures of these, which I did not, you would see how some of the skills that I've used on my Stardrake have translated over to it. But really, honestly, a lot of what is going on there is not the result of this, but the result of other things I do. See, I actually paint for fun. Mostly acrylic on canvas like this. This is from, like, high school, but it's still one of my favorite paintings I've ever done. And then I also do, obviously, miniatures, but I also paint on ceramic. So, like, I've painted for a really long time. Like, this dude, he was not produced out of thin air. But miniatures have been something I've been wanting to actually properly get into, and so Warhammer, I feel like, was a great way to start that. But now that he's done, I'm gonna probably go on to paint my Xandar's Truthseekers, since they're already half painted, and then I'm going to redo my Quester Soulsworns, because when I first started them, they were actually the first minis I started painting, and I didn't really know what I was doing yet, and I hadn't gotten a feel for it, so they just don't look good. And they don't mesh with how I ended up painting my Stardrake and my little bird over there. And the same with how the Xandar's Truthseekers are coming out. They just don't look like they belong in my army. So I'm just going to strip them and completely redo them, because right now they're kind of a mess, in my opinion at least. People say they look fine, but I have really big standards for myself, unfortunately, because yeah, that's how it is. So there was a really big process that went behind painting this thing, and I kind of wanted to show you what it looked like, because it's gonna affect how long it's gonna take me to do the next ones. But I paint in pieces. I have what's called an essential tremor, and it's a neurological tremor that makes my limbs shake, a little bit in my legs, but it really is a big issue in my hands, which is terrible, obviously, because I'm trying to paint miniatures. So right now, I'm painting in pieces. Like, this is one of my Xandar's Truthseekers. He looks pretty whole right now, but this isn't all of him. And he's one of the push-together kinds, which is really annoying, so that means I have to actually push most of him together. But it's enough for me to maneuver properly. Like, their capes are separate, and I'm gonna push them together once they're done. And then the other reason why I'm restarting my Quester Soulsworns is because when I first got them, I didn't do that. They're all the way put together, and they're really, really hard for me to paint like this. So I resolved, after I started working on them, that I'm never going to do that again. And honestly, I don't know if I would have even gotten this dragon done, not only to the level that it is now. I don't think it would look as good as it does if I had done it in one piece, but also just as fast as I did. It just would have been too much for me to do, unfortunately. But if you kind of want an idea of what that looked like when I was kind of putting it together, I am also going to have a Drakesworn Templar in my army, and that uses the same sprue as the Stardrake. So yeah, this is what it looks like. It's not primed yet, but I was basically painting chunks like this, and this is all sectioned out to how I want it. And I'll be going through and pretty much doing the exact same thing again, except the color scheme is going to be different this time. I'm going to be playing around. I'm very excited. Also, it's going to be... simplified's the wrong word, but I think the color scheme I've chosen for this dragon is going to be a lot simpler than that dragon's, which I'm hoping simple doesn't mean not as good looking. It's just cool in a different way. Also, completely forgot to mention it, but I took a lot of videos for this video, and I can't control my tremor, so I'm sorry if you end up getting like motion sick or something while watching them. I was really doing my best to steady my hand, but I couldn't, unfortunately. As for the paint scheme, for the most part, I go off of what the 3rd edition codex says rather than the 4th edition, because 3rd edition's is like way more in-depth. Like, by the way, I got this like 2 months before 4th edition codex dropped. I'm in pain, but at least I got it, because I didn't realize how downgraded the painting section was. And it's a crime, honestly. If you're planning on painting Stormcast Eternals, I would try and find I don't know, like, someone's got to have scanned the pages on the painting guide for them, because there's straight up like 4 pages detailing how to paint them and like what the recommended paint schemes are. And then that's not even going into if you're not doing like your basic blue and gold like I am, because I just like that color scheme. But yeah, like, look at that. It's beautiful, wonderful, so in depth. It tells me so much. It goes into the other cities. It's great. It goes on for like 5 pages. You want to know how much is in this book? Let me see if I can even find it, because it's so little. Boom. That's it. 2 pages. That's all you get. We had 7 to like 10 pages in there, but no, you only need 2 pages, obviously. I mean, just look at the difference in thickness between these codexes. It's just kind of sad how much content was lost. I haven't even been here for that long. I haven't done anything in 3rd edition, but I just think that says a lot. Also, no, I haven't read the codexes or any AOS books. Please don't at me. You've seen my backlog. I have so much to get through. Please! I'm trying my best with Stormcast lore. That being said, for my Stardrake specifically, I actually didn't follow any of the painting guides for the dragon itself. I based it entirely off of the picture that's on the box because I think that paint scheme is really, really cool. And though it's not a perfect one-to-one, I think it's pretty close. And I'm happy because I really, really like that paint scheme, so it just makes me happy to see it on my dragon. Also, if you want to know like the full colors and stuff for my dragon, I'm not going to list them out in the video because there's just too much going on for each section for me to do that, but if you really want to know, I'm happy to go in and edit my description and add it all there. I didn't want to say it here because it might honestly take like another 10 minutes just to go through each piece and be like, yeah, I did this here and this here. The last thing I want to mention for my like process of painting is that honestly, like, I don't really do edging with my painting, even though that's like a really popular thing that they even teach you how to do in the books. And it's because my hand tremored so much when I was trying to do it the first time around that I kind of gave up and decided to do dry brushing instead, and also smudging, which is when I'd like do dry brushing and then I smudge it off with my thumb to kind of give it a softer look. And it really worked out in the end, I think. It has a lot more softer tones. It makes the armor look a bit more like sun bleached and worn, and I ended up loving it because it reminds me of my own paint style, and yeah, I just like how it looks. It's not perfect every single time. It can look a bit messy, but I think it adds character, so it's here to stay for now. Next, I think I'm gonna show off all of my shit, because I might as well. This is my paint box. I think I need to invest in a third art box. I have too many art supplies. Starting off with brushes. Ta-da. Yeah, they look like shit. They're really old. Some of these are from high school. They also, like, up close, look no better. Like, look at these two. Look at how crunchy they look. I cannot get this camera to focus on them, and honestly that's probably for the best because I wanted to keep focusing on my face. But they're supposed to look like that because on my canvas, these are all my actual paintbrushes, by the way, on my canvas I use them for texture, and then this one is used as a general base coater for my larger models, which means that I take a giant glob of paint and I paint it really fast, which even though you're told you're not supposed to do that, you can actually do that. The problem is that with these paints, because they're acrylic, and especially because they're thin, they're going to dry really, really fast. So you just need to know not only how to paint really fast with acrylic, but also how to make sure it doesn't pull in any of the like grooves so that you end up losing texture. You don't want to do that. This one is mostly for dry brushing, which is why I don't care that it looks so fucked up. The only other big brush that I own is this dude right here, and he's only used for two things. He's used for dusting my mini and for varnishing, and that is it, because he is too big to use for anything else, honestly. The rest of these brushes are mostly used for whatever I feel like. These ones go for basing and for dry brushing if I so please. And then these two here I would never use for dry brushing, but they are for details. This one is brand new. Brand spanking new. It is the exact same as the other one I'm holding in my hand, but notice how one of them is bent and the other is not. This one is much, much older, but he does his job just fine, so I don't care. They're literally the exact same brush. Also, you'll notice that this is a wet palette. I did not own a wet palette until about 2 weeks ago. That is because normally I can paint really, really fast, so it doesn't matter, and I will just use my dry palette. But when I started working on the wings, the like actual fingers for the wings were so small that I had to go really slow, and my paint would dry out in here long before I got the chance to use it all. So instead of just throwing away money, I finally invested in a wet palette, and honestly, I probably should have done that a lot sooner than I did, but oh well, my bad. Next up, paints. Behold, my paint collection. There's many in here, and they're starting to not fit. I use a mixture of both war paint and Citadel, and if it were up to me, I would switch completely to war paint, but they don't have every single color that I need for my army, so I'm kind of stuck using both. They're not really that different though, so you can really have a mixture of them, especially if you can find the color in war paint and save some money. Up until recently, I wouldn't have been caught dead using war paints because war paints used to be super, super thin and very annoying to work with. And I should make some context known. I work with very thick acrylic, like acrylic that holds shape when you push it out of the tube. So working with these is kind of a learning curve because I'm not used to stuff this watery and this runny, which is also why I don't have like, it's not paint thinner, but the stuff that people will pour into these to get more paint out of it, it will make it runnier, and I just can't deal with that in my brain. It's runny enough for me, and honestly, I don't use enough of these paints to invest in it. So I'm just gonna leave it as is for now. But despite that watery comment, honestly, with the way I paint, I can get a nice base coat in 1 to 2 coats, and then I don't have to worry about it because I do so many layers of like dry brushing and washes and, you know, actual layer paints that it really doesn't matter. It's going to cover no matter what I do. And one more thing, don't buy the spray-on varnish. I used spray-on varnish once a long time ago, and it was very hard for me to tell how much to use, and I absolutely ruined my mini. I painted on my varnish today, and it worked perfectly well. It honestly went a lot faster than spraying on varnish did for me personally, and yeah, I've also been told this is just the better option anyways, so just buy your paint on varnish and paint it yourself. My basing materials, I use Mod Podge and I use a foam brush. This is probably the easiest one. I know people use Elmer's glue. From what I understand, use Elmer's glue if you want to take off your base at any point in time, but I think Mod Podge works really well. And the foam brush, no one recommended this to me. It just made sense in my brain, and it ended up working really well. This does, however, soak up a lot of Mod Podge, so you do not need a lot to get your mini based. It will hold a lot in there. When going about basing my mini, I ended up doing like 2 layers of gravel and then 1 layer of grass, and I didn't do like a full 2 layers all around it. I just kind of put it in the areas where I felt like it needed more layers. And then after I did that, all with Mod Podge, I used some super glue, and I put in some bushes, I put in some rocks, and I super glued on the grass. The grass does have adhesive, but I was told that I might want to super glue it on, and after feeling the adhesive at the bottom of these things, I would agree it's not very strong, and I think over time, especially with the dust that can be on the gravel, and just like my general environment, I think it was just going to fall right off. So super gluing is probably the best option, especially if you don't plan on debasing your mini, which I don't. I don't think I'm going to change that out anytime soon. Oh, and finally, buy a variety. Look at how many thingies I have. Look at all my fun little doodads. Mess around, have fun. I bought flowers as accent pieces because I thought it'd be cute, along with my grass. Like, have fun with your basing. It's just as much of an art part as the rest of your mini is. Outside of that, some tools I generally recommend. Plastic glue. Please, please hear me out on this. Please use plastic glue. I am very clumsy because of my tremors, and I just knock shit around. It falls all the time, and I need all of my minis bits to stay attached at every point in time, or else I might go insane. Minor horror story, it worked out in the end. I felt terrible though when it happened. One of my friends let me use one of their minis to sub in one of my own because I had accidentally forgotten it here at my house, and I kind of had like a little shaky hand moment while I was moving them on the board, and I flicked it and it came off of its base. I was so horrified. I didn't know what to do. I was like, dude, it just popped right off. And he was like, oh, what the heck? I super glued it. This does not do what this does. This breaks down the plastic completely and remolds it together. It like straight up changes the plastic's chemistry, whereas this just sticks it together. So please trust me on this. Use plastic glue for your actual minis and not the super glue. I guess you can use super glue if you plan on taking them apart at some point. I plan on that shit staying together forever. That shit's not going anywhere, so I'm using plastic glue. smaller things, have a shitty cup for painting, and buy brush soap. It's really, really nice. And it's wonderful at keeping your brushes alive. Once again, I don't try very hard to keep my brushes alive, but I'm gonna keep the new one nice because I don't have a fine tip not tilted to the left a little bit, so fuck. So we're gonna try and keep it clean. Quick editor's note, I also recommend artist tape. I forgot to bring it up. It's got a very weak adhesive, so if you are perchance like me who suddenly couldn't get a wing to stay in place no matter what she did, it can actually hold up the wing quite well and not let it slip away from its original place while not tearing the paint off of your mini when you go to take it off. I also recommend an X-Acto knife and a self-healing X-Acto board because I'm sure you're all well aware how terrible it is to take minis out of their sprues sometimes, and so this lets me perform grape surgery on them, so that, you know, I don't have to deal with big old chunky bits hanging off of them when I cut them out. Also, this is really nice for, like, when I was using the Mod Podge, sometimes I would get it on the mini, which meant that the rocks, because I would have it in a little tub and I would just drop all of my basing material on it, the rocks would sometimes stick to the dragon, so it was nice to just use this fine tip and just kind of like flick them off. So yeah, I just highly recommend using an X-Acto knife with the actual self-healing board. Also, just for funsies, if you're wondering how I got the stars on my Stardrake, I have a really shitty old toothbrush. I dip the end in the paint and I just kind of flick it onto the dragon's wing. So if you want to make stars yourself, just get an old toothbrush and do exactly that. You know, practice a little bit because it's kind of, you kind of have to know how much paint you want to have on there in order to make it apply properly. It will come out in really ugly big speckles if you're not careful, so definitely practice first, but it's honestly one of my favorite painting techniques besides like sponge work. If you haven't seen how that looks, by the way, you should definitely look up how painting with sponge and painting with soap looks. They're so pretty, and I might do it on one of my minis sometimes. Finally, my last tool, the IKEA lamp. Literally, all I do is use this for light, and then I'll take my funny little paintbrush and I'll push my head up to the lamp like this and hold my mini like this, and this is how I paint. This is not good for your eyes. You shouldn't do this, but that's how I do it. So with all that said and done, let's actually talk about my boy. I don't have a name for him yet, but I love him. I tried to get some nice shots of him for this video, but honestly, I have no idea what I was doing while I was recording these videos. I really don't like any of the videos I've taken because I think he just looks best in person, but honestly, I needed to do him more justice than what this video's quality was gonna be because I'm recording at night and with a very shitty, like, video camera, so I could not do that to him. I had to do him some sort of justice. Also, I videotaped him in a tree. Do not know why I did that, but enjoy the footage, I guess. I will say, definitely my favorite part of him is for sure his wings, because every time I stare at the stars, I just fall in love with it again. I've been in love with painting stars since high school, and I saw this as a chance to revisit a skill that I haven't used in a long time and also improve on it. If you want to see an example of what it used to look like, here's a painting, a dragon, unsurprisingly, that I did in high school. You can see like the stars in the background. I did another one. Here it is. I was trying to do like a blue sun kind of thing. And I noticed that all of the stars looking back on it are really spaced out, so I wanted to try and get a more cosmically, like, I don't know, developed. It looks like people live there. There are stars in my solar system in this dragon's wings is what I'm saying. Whereas here, it's like they're so spaced out. But honestly, I had really fun. I love looking at these wings, and I would do it again. I think I'm gonna do even more on the next Stardrake. The actual Lord Celestant on the Stardrake was fun too, but he was probably the most difficult part to paint because he was split into too many small parts, and it can get a bit hard for me to maneuver him at that level, but he turned out really well. And side note, really surprised that I managed to fit him in his saddle. I had no idea how he was supposed to go in there, and I was told that this model sometimes has fitting issues, and yeah, on occasion it does, and it's very annoying, and the saddle was one of them, and I think it's going to be the wing on the next dragon, because I was trying to like slot it and kind of give an idea of its placement today and it just wasn't working. I'm gonna have to cut some stuff. But yeah, that's the first part of both my 1,000 point and 2,000 point armies done, which, by the way, my 2,000 point army is called 7 fucking dragons. 2 guesses what that has in it. Now that this is done, I can move on to all of those, plus all the extra models I have, because if I'm gonna be real with you, I have a lot of excess models. Most of my army has been, like, gifted to me. I was given the Stormcast half of the Skaven versus Stormcast pack because my friends do not play Stormcast, they have no interest in playing Stormcast, and probably will never build them in the first place, so they decided to give it to me, because I needed the 10 Liberators in it for my 2,000 point army. How, you weren't guessing those were in there, were you? So I have all of those, and I'll probably fuck around with army composition as I go because I have them, but I want to make sure they're all put together and painted, because if I don't, and I leave them unpainted, unassembled, my dad is going to roast me so hard for having what he will call useless shit lying around. It's useless until it's put together and pretty looking like this. So I need to make sure that it's all finished. Great motivation to get the backlog done, and also great motivation to one-up my old man and not let him make fun of me. After all of that is done and put together, then I will start on my 40k armies, because I am going to make 40k armies. It's either going to be Blood Angels or Custodes, and it's going to be both of them eventually. I just don't know which one I want to do first. It's going to probably end up being Custodes, though, because they're cheaper and have less models that I have to build and paint. But who knows, maybe I just don't want to paint any more gold things after this, and I would be right in that, okay? Do you know how fucking hard it is to paint metallics? They are so moody. But yeah, that's all. I'm gonna go off script in terms of paint schemes for the actual dragons because I want to have fun with it, and I don't want them to actually look homogenous. I just want the armor to look homogenous in my army. And I'm gonna probably do more showcase videos like this in the future as I paint more and more dragons. Though they'll definitely be shorter because I'm not gonna go over the full list of things I went over today. I just thought it'd be fun to tell you guys what my process looked like and what all the shit I own is and how that all plays into painting this insane creature that I've done today. Now, if you'll please excuse me, I'm gonna go roll out my stiff ass back on the floor.